This is the third story in the trilogy of God's plan of salvation that will reach completion in the unfolding events of Holy Week and Easter, as Jesus suffers, dies, and rises to life. The first story in this trilogy took place just 3 weeks ago, when the woman at the well encountered Jesus. It was in that encounter that she was then called to faith, and then somehow commissioned to become a messenger of the kingdom, as she set out to call her own townspeople to come and see. The second story is the one of the man born blind. Through that encounter with Jesus once again, this man of the streets, this man of darkness, would be given sight. From darkness to light. And all because Jesus had come along and entered into this blind man's world. Finally, our third story. This time, it's not a call to faith, nor is it a shift from darkness to light, but rather this story, the story of Lazarus and his sisters, is the very essence of what Jesus' life and ministry would be all about. Lazarus would go from death to life, as he was called from his tomb. And all of this took place because of that moment of encounter with this man Jesus, whose mission in the world was indeed to bring sight to the blind, faith and hope to the poor and the outcast, and finally, life from death. These three stories around which we have reflected over these past few weeks have been prepared for us and offered to us to enable us to be aware of our own moments of encounter with that man Jesus, who had indeed come to bring life. These three stories will also lead us into the stories that will be presented to us over the next few days, as we now become immersed into these Holy Week events, where Jesus faces all the challenges of this life that is ahead for him. Arrested, judged, and condemned to crucifixion. This was his lot. And in spite of the power of his ministry, that did indeed bring healing and life to all who would follow him, he would still be rejected by his world. It may be appropriate that as we enter into this journey of Holy Week, as we hear the unfolding drama of the stories of the suffering Christ, that we keep our minds on the gifts of healing and life, of forgiveness and hope that Jesus had brought. And these have been presented to us in the three stories that had marked our Lenten journey. The woman at the well, the man born blind, and then Lazarus and his sisters. They had all encountered that person of Jesus Christ. And if so, I wonder if they had then set out for Jerusalem. If they had set out to be there in that holy city during those tumultuous events of that first Holy Week. Perhaps in support of this man who had brought them so much, they would endeavour to be there for him. They would endeavour to be there with him as he faced this passion event. It seems that Jesus knew what was ahead for him as he resolutely faced the Jerusalem journey. He knew that he would face suffering, condemnation, and finally death. And all of this for the sake of the world and its people. Once again, his life and his mission had been given to him so that he would indeed become that sacrificial Lamb of God, the one who would take away the sin of the world by the very actions of his life. Yet in spite of all of that, and knowing just what was ahead for him as the suffering servant about whom Isaiah would write, Jesus still gave of himself for all of those people that he would encounter. In his journey towards Jerusalem, he was there for the woman at the well, who would benefit from his ministry of love and care. The man born blind he met on the road, and he would be brought into the light of the world. And finally, Lazarus, who had died, he would be returned to life. Our own journey to the Jerusalem events is slowly winding down. And in the days that are ahead, we will be immersed in the Passion story once again, as Jesus suffers and dies for us on Calvary. It was in this event, as Jesus would suffer and die and then rise again, that God would heal the world. As we enter into this journey that is ahead for us, it is perhaps a moment for us to stop, to wonder, and perhaps to ponder the enormous immensity of God present in our lives.